Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Commander Pickups video. For July, we are looking at 10 cards that I believe are pretty good pickups if you were looking to add to your Commander decks, or if you were looking for just good value cards for the money. Keep in mind these are US prices, they don't apply to other currencies and different printings in other languages. I get that question sometimes, so I have to clarify. Yes, this is for the American Magic the Gathering market. First card to talk about is Lotus Field from M20. This was a really good land, especially if you could search for it with something like Golos, because it really helped to solve the issue with a lot of these lands that you're giving up other lands, but it itself will tap for 3 mana. All it took for someone to ruin your day was to play something like a Strip Mine, and things like the bounce lands would be usually the first to go, because those would tap for 2. However, the upside here is having hexproof, so you don't have to worry about that. It still enters the battlefield tap though, which is, to me, the biggest downside to it, but for only $2.61, I really like this card. I think there are going to be strategies that will take advantage of it in the future. That's why I say it's a good value pickup right now. And whenever a new strategy is introduced and we find a place for older cards like these that have rotated out of standard and they don't really have a home, when they do find that new home, their prices tend to reflect that. So $2.61 I think could definitely go up. There's plenty of room for that. The next good pickup is one that just got a reprint, Blade of Selves. This is specifically the reprint from Battle for Baldur's Gate. This was a great equipment back when it didn't have a reprint, and it wasn't just expensive because it was a Commander Precon card. It was expensive because at the time it was the only way you could give Myriad to other creatures. We have an enchantment now that can do that, but still, this is colorless and can fit in way more decks. Myriad is such a cool mechanic, it's probably the best in my opinion, because you can abuse legendary creatures because of the legend rule. I get people asking me all the time, that's not supposed to work because the token's exile. Meanwhile, they're missing the whole point of the legend rule. You get those token copies and then you sacrifice them. So those will give you ETBs and death triggers for a lot of crazy abilities. It's an awesome equipment. You don't have to play an equipment-focused strategy, which makes it automatically one of the best equipments. So long as you're able to synergize with the ability itself, it's useful. And there are so many ways you can abuse it, not just with your legendary creatures to abuse the legend rule, but with ETBs and good combat abilities. At only $3.05, this is currently the cheapest printing of Blade of Selves. And I try to keep cards under $3 whenever I do these Commander pickups, because it makes it easier for people to buy multiples if they want to fit them into other decks. And for a long time, this was way more expensive than $3. So do I think it's going to go up to where it was before the reprint? Probably not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it regained some of that value, which is why I say it's a good pickup right now for the $3.05. Next, we have a card from, I believe, the Crimson Vow Commander set. It wasn't part of the precons, but it was one of those soul bond creatures that came as part of the main set. We have Breathkeeper Serif for only $2.62. I love this card. Is it as busted as the soul bond mechanic for Deadeye Navigator was? No, but the ability is still incredibly useful in Commander. As long as it's paired with another creature each of those creatures has when they die, you may return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your next upkeep, which makes them incredibly difficult to deal with. So not only will the creature you're soul bonded with have this ability, but so will Breathkeeper Serif. So if you have to deal with a board wipe, you're getting both of those back. I'll admit what makes this a little less convenient is that it is easier to get around if you deal with the Breathkeeper Serif first, because once you no longer control both of them, the other creature is no longer soul bonded and it loses that ability. But protection against a board wipe I think is still pretty good, and if this just ends up being a barrier to dealing with another creature, then I think that's also good. You'll end up getting the Breathkeeper Serif back, and then you can soul bond it to another creature. Under $3, I think this is a very good value card. Soul Bond is such a unique ability, I think people should pay attention to this one. And then next we have a really good card that I'm actually surprised is still under $3, Wishclaw Talisman from Throne of Eldraine. This is a competitive card, it sees play in CEDH, which is why I'm surprised. It's also a tutor. You should also consider Casual Commander whenever talking about anything, and I think there is actual value here in Casual Commander. I think the Silver Quill strategy from Strixhaven really introduced this card as more of a political card as opposed to a straight up tutor, because you're giving this to an opponent who is likely not going to destroy you, but is going to help you. Often what I found when playing this is that they'll just give it right back to you so you can use the third wish counter. It's incredible value in those decks, as well as just offering competitive decks a very cheap way of searching for their win cons. At only $2.88, this is an absolute steal. I think people are really undervaluing it right now, and especially because more and more people are playing Pioneer, anything that has competitive potential and Commander that is still legal in Pioneer is worth looking out for. And then next we have from Modern Horizons 2. Basically the best of both worlds. If you like black, you like white, the cards Damnation and Wrath of God, well, this is their child. For only 2 black mana, this sorcery destroys target creature, and a creature that's destroyed that way can't be regenerated, but you overload it for 4 mana to basically just Wrath of God. So if you're playing a deck that would normally justify playing either of those, Dam is a strictly better version because you don't have to board wipe if you don't want to. If you only have 1 target to destroy and you only want to destroy 1 target, you can do that for only 2 mana. Black-white decks have loved this card, and only being $2.81 again. It's another head scratcher. Damnation has been an expensive card. Wrath of God's not really that cheap either. You have their love child here for under $3. I say jump on it. It's another undervalued card. It's another steal. If you haven't already got one for your decks, what the heck are you waiting for? It's premium removal. I'll buy it all day if you won't. Then next we have another black card because black is awesome. In the past few years we've received just nothing but awesome black cards. Tergrid, God of Fright. I know you don't like me saying that name because the associated strategies are toxic and it keeps people up at night, but in all seriousness, even if you're not playing Tergrid as a commander, there's a lot of value in playing her as one of the 99. $2.86, another black card that is in this range. It just screams steal to me because this should be a $10 card, maybe a $15 card, seeing as it's one of those black cards that could just shut down games. Does have a reverse side if that's what you're interested in. Most people aren't, but again, it's one of those oppressive black spells that you could run in some competitive circles and really roll some heads. Really, these 3 black cards that I just talked about, there's no reason why each of them shouldn't be $10 and up. And then we have a card that's been reprinted a few times, Wheel of Fate. $1.59 is really cheap for what this is. And we only have so many Wheel of Fortune cards that are sorceries that are 3 mana or less, and even fewer ones that do something that's exactly the same as Wheel of Fortune. So this card being a suspend where you're gonna have to wait 4 turns sucks, but you have to think of the potential for this in the future. It has been more expensive in the past. In fact, I think the printing that you're seeing here is the cheapest, but at one point, it had a decent premium on it. Suspend is a unique ability, and I think we're going to have future strategies that will make playing cards like these even easier. We have Cascade, which will make this not only free, but you'll be able to cast it right then and there. If we have more things like Cascade that will abuse Suspend, then I could see this $1.59 turn into something a bit more impressive. I mean, straight up, it is Wheel of Fortune that you have to wait for, so you know the value's there. The real question becomes, how do we get around waiting 4 turns? Next up, we have a card that I believe is not just a good commander option, but a great card for aristocrat decks in general. Tasha Karlov from Ravnica Allegiance. $2.68. This is even cheaper than those black cards I was talking about in the $2.80 range. I believe ever since the release of Panharmonicon, there's been this obsession with needing to double triggers. So in this case, it's for death triggers. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And oh yeah, she has a pretty cool condition that most people don't pay attention to. Creature tokens you control have vigilance and lifelink, all on a reasonable forecasted commander. Listen, everything about this creature is great, and it's super easy to synergize. If you have value off of sacrificing creatures, you get double the value. Grave Pact abilities just absolutely murder with this, and aristocrat combos become child's play. It really doesn't get any easier than throwing a Tasha Karlov out there and suddenly getting double the value for whatever you're sacrificing. I like this right now because she's only $2.68. We're not in the best economy right now. People might be looking for more budget options. And if you don't want to go for Tergrid because of the reputation, I think Tasha is not a bad option either. But we also have this next card here, the Scorpion God from Hour of Devastation. Remember these guys? The gods that when they die, they would return to your hand at the beginning of the next end step? Well, this was probably the weakest of the 3 that we got in Hour of Devastation. However, being only $2.04 without being reprinted since, I think this card has a lot of potential, a lot of room to grow. Because of its first ability, whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, you draw a card. That's great on any commander if you have a reliable way of drawing cards and it synergizes with the rest of your strategy. It means you're going to get through your deck. It means you're going to have a more consistent time. However, also consider this as one of the 99 because of that same ability. It's also worth pointing out that that activated ability of 3 mana also helps to enable the first ability. That's always a gold mine for Commander, because it means you don't really have to rely on every other card in your deck to get your strategy going. Worst case scenario, you have an amazing Commander to fall back on. You have great recovery because it returns to into your hand, so in many cases you can avoid paying that extra commander tax, and Scorpion God's going to put in a lot of work. Next we have Eerie Ultimatum from Ikoria. I love the ultimatums in general because they're so goofy, 7 mana spells, all colored mana, a bit awkward to justify for every deck, but this is an awesome format where you want bigger plays, you want the satisfaction of pulling off something that you probably wouldn't in other formats. And $2.32 I think for what you get here in Eerie Ultimatum, it is entirely worth it. You return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's all permanents. That's your lands if you have different named lands, which in a 3+ colored deck, you definitely do. That's also every creature in a commander deck, because it's likely a singleton deck. It's exactly the value that you want for 7 mana in these colors. It's totally one-sided, you're not giving this benefit to your opponents. Living Death is a great card, but it has that downside. With this, you are only concerned with what's in your graveyard and what you can return straight to your battlefield. So anyway, that's going to do it for this Commander Pickups video. Again, all of these are at $3 or below, so they're very affordable, they're versatile cards, they can fit into multiple decks for whatever reason. That's the whole purpose behind these videos, so I hope it helped you out. Please leave a comment if you have any recommendations for other good pickups right now. Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.